Is it really that time of year already? As of the time I'm recording this, it is November 3rd. So Halloween was literally 3 days ago. We have our first Christmas movie. So, you know, gotta do what you gotta do, I guess. Okay. So I guess we're in the holiday spirit. So, wow, that is really flashing right there. So this is interesting because I was planning on hating this movie. Like, was really planning on just ripping it apart. And I must say, much to my surprise, I don't hate this movie. Now, please understand there is a marked difference between not hating something and liking it. I cannot say that this is a good movie, but I think the title of could have been a lot worse definitely applies in this instance. So I don't think I have to tell anybody what this one is about. This one has gotten, trailers and commercials and all that. They're trying to make a big holiday blockbuster, pardon me. So we're just going to dive right in and talk about, what's going on here. Yeah. This is a takeoff of the Nutcracker ballet, that thing that your parents and your school make you go see every holiday season, and taking it and kind of mixing it with that Chronicles of Narnia, Harry Potter, those god-awful Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland films, and kind of shaking them all up and making a movie out of the pieces. And I think that's kind of one of the major issues, is that the pieces don't all necessarily fit together. The pieces are all fine to excellent in a lot of cases, but they don't all fit. So let's talk about the good things first. First of all, you've got to say, it is an incredibly pretty movie. From a visual standpoint and a directing standpoint, it is just top-notch. The costume design and production design especially are just off the chart. And, this is one of those films that whoever, the costume designer, when they got handed the assignment, must have been just over the moon to do something like this, as opposed to having to do another costume drama or something, because you could tell there was a lot of imagination put into it. I could only imagine the young actress's face. I don't know her name, so I'm just going to call her Clara because that's her character's name. I can only imagine Clara's face when they took her in to do her costume fittings or show her costumes that first time, or when they had her on set in them in the first time. That must have been quite a day for her, because they are some very, very beautiful costumes. So the movie looks just really exquisite. And there is a very, very strong directorial eye here. I checked. It looked like it had two directors. The one name I didn't recognize. The other, I think, was Joe Johnston, who directed The Rocketeer and the first Captain America movie. And if I'm right, and again, because I don't research these things beforehand, so sometimes I come out looking really stupid when I say things like that. If that was him, then yeah, they had a very strong director or co-director on this one, because he is one of the most underrated filmmakers I think that's out there. Honestly, I think he's just phenomenal. But here's the problem. So while the production design and everything is pretty outstanding, it just, I don't know, the film as a whole feels very disjointed, and like the directing style's not matching with the story they're telling. And the reason I'm bringing that up is because when it clicks, when the directing, the set design, the costume design, the very, very clever camera movements and sweeping, very gentle, very balletic, ironically, kind of directing style meshes with the story in the right way, it's just phenomenal. There's a section there at about the midway point where Clara watches a ballet that kind of details the history of the magic realm she's found herself in, and boy howdy is that a gorgeous couple of minutes of film. The dancing, the special effects, the costuming, the sets, everything is just coming together in such a beautiful way. And I love that section. And there are other moments where it works too. But the problem is that when you have something like that is so good, it shows off just how much everything else just doesn't seem to fit together. You know, I mentioned the set design and the costume design and and all that. Here's the flip side. Here's the problem with it. It's all just a little too reminiscent of too many other films that it's very clear this movie is trying to capture the spirit of. All right, when Clara first enters the magical realm, which I don't think they ever give a proper name to, enters the magical realm, it looks a hell of a lot like Narnia, and then they go to a a darker forest, the fourth realm of the title, and it looks an awful lot like the Forbidden Forest from Harry Potter. Matter of fact, the entire the big party scene and everything in Morgan Freeman's mansion all looks very Harry Potter-ish, like very. So while this movie might have an original point of view or an original story, it gets lost in the fact that the visuals, while strong, are just not enough of their own thing and a little too much of everything that's popular that this movie is clearly trying to be. And that's kind of the other thing with movies. For every good thing I can say, there is a bad thing, or there's a flip side. The story is not as insipid or predictable or hokey as the trailers and whatnot might have you believe or might be trying to sell it as. There is an interesting thing that they're doing with the story, and of course, so the story goes, Clara has lost her mother. We're led to assume fairly recently before the events of the movie take place, and the film is kind of a metaphor for her dealing with her grief, and realizing that you're going to be okay and you're going to go on. It's all very, not everything, and it's the metaphor for that, but that's kind of the main point of view they're working from. And I think in that instance, the film handles things rather well. There's a line at the end of this that really hit me in a good way. So Clara is, the day is won, everything's great. Clara is getting ready to, leave Oz. And she has, a little scene with, the Nutcracker who's gone on the adventure with her. Funny, interesting enough, for the title character, the Nutcracker is not actually anything even close to the title character. He's more of a sidekick, but, let's not worry about that. But anyway, So Clara's getting ready to leave, and he said, the Nutcracker says, I'll miss you. And she says, I'll miss you too, but that's okay, because when you miss something, you also remember it. And I just sat there in the theater and went, that's actually very simplistic and yet very profound. I realize it is a little bit of cheesy writing, but I don't know. I just that kind of hit me. And what I liked about that bit of writing is that, that is something a child, who the film is geared to clearly, can grasp and understand and put a face on those feelings. It did that for me, and I'm no kid, trust me, despite what the blinky hat might have you believe. So it had some moment. It also has a very clever, kind of not so much unexpected, you kind of see it coming, but it has an interesting heel face turn there about midway. And I don't even know if I'm going to call it a twist. I'll call it a heel face turn. And anybody who knows their wrestling lingo knows what I'm talking about. And it's a little unexpected and kind of a neat monkey wrench thrown in the proceedings. So clearly they did some neat things with the story. But here's the bad side. The story is also just chocked full of so many of the same cliches we've seen from these types of movies over the last 10 years. Is it going to surprise you to find out that Clara is not a conventional young woman? She likes inventions, and she's very clever with machines, and of course she feels out of place. She's not like her sister, who likes to dress up in pretty clothes. Clara's trying to find her place in the world, and oh, wouldn't you know it, she finds that the strength and the wisdom and all that to save the day was inside her the whole time. It's like she is. The actress does a very nice job. This is not a knock at the young woman playing this character. I'm not trying to be mean to her, because I think she does a fantastic job. And I always find that the young people in these movies, where they're acting against green screens and people in weird makeup, it really is a testament to them, with how good of a job they do. And she does a very good job. I'm just saying that the character and her journey is a cliche. We have seen it. All right? We've seen it a lot. Okay? While I'm on the subject of the performances, I gotta give some shout outs to some of the other performances. I think the MVP of this is Keira Knightley. Keira Knightley, totally rules in the role of Sugar Plum, the Sugar Plum Fairy. She's just really good. It's so funny that just seeing her in, Colette a little bit ago, then seeing her in this, just show that she is a very versatile actor. I think the greatest special effect of the movie is how the fuck she got her voice up that high. Because she talks the whole time in this very, flippery voice and da-da-da. And Keira Knightley kind of has a deeper range in her voice for a woman. It's not like, she's not a baritone. She's not like Morgan Freeman, clearly. But she's got a little bit deeper voice. But she just has this, it's like, and I was legitimately wondering watching it, it's like, is she doing that? Or is that like, did they augment that in, post-production a little bit for her? But yeah, she does a good job. All the actors do a very good job. The young man playing the Nutcracker does a very good job. But again, with the exception of Keira Knightley's character, I think a lot of the characters are just very flat. Both our young leads, Clara and the Nutcracker, are quite good, and they're having fun with their roles, and they're really trying, but the relationship is very flat. The characters are very flat. It's just not not a very interesting group. So yeah, the movie also drags a lot. The movie drags just a ton. You know, by the time they get to the Battle of Helm's Deep, Hogwarts, whatever, you know, you're expecting this big blowout, and it really doesn't do that at all. You know, it's really kind of a drag by the end. Okay, and here's something I really have to say, and this is a minor problem, but it's one that stuck to me just through the whole frickin' film. So Clara in this film has a brother and a sister. You know, she has an older sister who, you know, of course, is the pretty one. That's another thing. It's actually two things. I love how in these films there's the pretty one, you know, and then there's supposed to be Clara, the middle one, who's plain, and then, you know, and she likes the machines and all this. Okay, Clara could not look anything more like a Disney princess if they cloned her in a fucking lab. She is a lovely young woman. And it's annoying when they try to pass off these lovely young women, you know, oh, yeah, I'm not as pretty as the other one. It's like, yeah, you are. It's like, what are you talking about? So yeah, anyway, there is an awful lot of not so much sibling bashing in this, but sibling ignoring, which is really weird. So at one point, apparently, you know, they never explain how this happens, but apparently this whole story hinges on the fact that Clara's mother either created this realm or she was the queen of it somehow. It's a little unclear, but she was the queen of it, and you know, of course she died, and Clara's, you know, learning about all this stuff, and you know, she's talking with Keira Knightley, and you know, she asked, "Did my mother, you know, you act like you know me?" And she said, and Keira Knightley says, "Oh yes, your mother spoke of you all the time." I'm like, so just her? Not the other two? She didn't speak of her children. She spoke of Clara specifically? All right, you know, okay, you know, it's like, okay, just, you know, I'm sure she talked about the other kids. All right, you know, no problem. Then, during this flashback, she has a flashback to, you know, her mother, and her mother is talking to her, and she, "Oh, Clara, I know that you worry that you aren't as pretty as your sister, but do you know what? You're so clever. You're the cleverest, and I like that better." Okay. Way to knock down, or to build up the confidence of one kid by knocking down the confidence of the other. But okay, I'm like, all right, fine. You know, it's a scene with just the two of them. I'm sure, you know, that's what a parent says to kind of boost the ego of a child, especially if it's a middle kid. Okay, I get it. All right, fine. Then at the very end, she goes back, and, you know, she bumps into Morgan Freeman, and Morgan Freeman said, "You know, Clara, your mother was the greatest inventor I ever knew. And you know what she told me her greatest invention was? It was you. Not her children. You. Specifically, you." So apparently, Clara's brother and sister can go fuck themselves. Apparently, Clara's sister was just the practice dummy, and her brother was just the crap that was left over, because apparently her mother didn't give two shits about her other two kids. And it was so weird, and I don't know if anyone else picked up on it, but just, there was this constant little niggling and nagging, and again, especially aimed at the sister, and it's like, the sister never did anything in her very minimal screen time that implied she was a bully, or she was vain, or she was a mean person. She, you know, she's quite lovely to Clara. She tells her not to be so mean to their father, who's clearly going through a hard time after losing his wife. You know, she seems like a nice person. Why are we bashing this poor girl? You know, it's kind of a it's a double-edged sword we walk in entertainment. And I understand where it comes from. It is important that we give young women, young girls, a feeling of you can be the hero. You can be more than the damsel in distress or the pretty princess. You know, that was the message we sent to them for a very long time. And I think it is important that we do need to send them the opposite message now. I really believe that. But sometimes I think, just like Clara's mother, I think we rise up the self-confidence of one group by lowering the self-confidence of another. In just a very weird way. And again, I think it's just me. So this movie kind of was sending the message to me that if you are a girl who likes to look pretty and likes to wear nice dresses, that you are not ever going to be a hero because you're worthless. You know? And again, we never got any indication that Clara's sister was any kind of a terrible person or an idiot or anything. Or she never went, "Oh, Clara, you put your books away and find you a man." You know, she never did anything like that. But we're still being sent this kind of subliminal message here that because she liked looking pretty, her mother didn't like her as much. She wasn't going to save anybody. You know, the son was just so superfluous that, like, you know, nobody cared about him. Yeah, it's a weird thing to latch onto, but I did latch onto it, and it was just very, very bizarre to me. So yeah, so that's a thing about this movie as well. Just the unprovoked sister bashing or sister ignoring. You know, they don't even acknowledge she had other kids. I got one other thing. I just remembered this from talking about the visual style. That visual style can lean into the downright fucked up. You know, like I said, this film kind of borrows from Harry Potter, borrows from, you know, Chronicles of Narnia, borrows from those Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland movies, especially in the design of the supposed villain of the piece. Has these like henchmen. They're like these Russian Makushka dolls that can flip open, carry more inside of them. Holy fucking shit, those things are nightmare fuel. The faces on them alone are enough to make me go, well, I'm not sleeping again. If I didn't already have a built-in mistrust of clowns, I sure as shit do now. All right, so let's wrap this up. This has gone a little long. So, final grade. It's kind of been a weird night for it. But I've got to give this one a C as well. Because I did not hate it. And I think there's a lot of good here, and I think there's a lot that I think if you take a young kid, especially a young girl, to this, I think they will get something out of it. I think there are some moments of really brilliant filmmaking. But unfortunately, it's hampered by a by-the-numbers script, flat characters, and a visual style that, while interesting, borrows from just too many other references. It's not enough of its own thing. So I think if you take your kids to this one for a holiday treat, I don't think they're going to be disappointed. I don't think it's going to be too much. You're not going to be too bored or anything like that. But there are better things to take them to, I assume. All right. So, haven't done two of these in a day in a long time. I just kind of got the itch going. Learned the valuable lesson of you need to make sure the phone's charged. That's why we had the little cut there. But yeah, we're getting to that point in the year where a lot of these things are all coming out at the same time. Thanksgiving weekend is going to be real interesting for me. But anyway, so thank you for coming along with me tonight. I guess we're in the holiday season, so I'll say happy holidays to everybody. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.